Hi, everybody. My name is Anna Schultz. I'm the founder and head of school of ACE Prep. We are a small but mighty charter school northeast of Indianapolis. We are in year 5, growing 1 grade level a year. So we started with just K, now we're K through 4. And while it is reassuring to hear that this is uncharted waters for all of us, to be very blunt with you, if we wanted to found a virtual school, we would have done that, right? And so I don't have any clue what I'm doing, and we're figuring it out as we go. The team has been awesome, and I will say probably one of the biggest blessings that has come from all of this is being able to stumble upon you, Carrie and William. I wasn't familiar with Classroom U before, and all of the PD opportunities that have flooded our inbox, right, since this happened has been super overwhelming. And so to go through it and pick and choose, and I will tell you that the hour last week took up more pages in my Moleskine than I allotted for. And so it was just notes galore. And I was just unbelievably grateful and jazzed for your time, energy, and capacity, and have continued to regurgitate a lot of what you shared over the last week. So I was jazzed to be back here today. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm really glad that's awesome. Marianne.
Hi, I'm Marianne Jenks, and I'm an assistant principal at a K-8 school in Hillsborough County, Florida. And thank you, Carrie, for letting me in. I totally forgot to send that email because I was bogged down with 8,000 other emails. So I appreciate you letting me back in. And like the others have said, I took 5.5 pages of notes last week. So I was real excited to come back and have been implementing some of the things that you said in my little PLCs with my teachers. So I'm excited to network with these people from other states.
Yeah. I think this is such a nice benefit of everybody being from all over the place. And I love, Anna, what you said, we have no idea what we're doing.
No.
So I think it's awesome. I will say, I do know a district that said they're never doing snow days again.
Right.
Because they can just do this now, and they never have to take up a snow day. So,
right. That's exactly right.
That's cool. Treva, it is so good to see you, girl. It has been so many years. Anyway, we could catch up later, but share a little bit about you.
There we go. Okay. I was wondering if you were going to remember me. Good to see you. For the rest of you, my name is Treva Daniels Carlson, Beecher High School in Michigan. Yes, the Snowbelt. And as soon as I saw Carrie's name, I said, I have to see what she's talking about. She was one of my coaches that helped certify me as an instructional coach. And I've been doing that ever since for 5 years now. So.
Yay. Are you still real-time coaching?
Yes, I am. Still true to the model, too.
Nice. So, that's great. William and Katie and I all come from there. So
okay.
Great. Very cool.
Just right, soak it up.
Nice. So good to see you. Kemitra, are you there? I see your beautiful picture.
Yeah, my picture looks a lot better than I look in real life.
All of us.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Kemitra Edwards. I am the Executive Director of Village of Excellence Academy, a very small charter school network, actually also in Hillsborough County, Marianne. Title I, and last week was really great. I've been really trying to, it's really hard to try to swim in a different direction when everyone is saying, oh, this is best practice. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not. And so our district and our schools are headed in directions. And I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that philosophically or not. And so just last week was so affirming to say, maybe I need to stop and think about things a little differently and just make different priorities for my team. So thank you all. This really has been the best PD of anything else I've done so far.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so hard to tell people what you're going to get out of it, right? And you just got to kind of trust branding or something. I don't know. Okay, very cool. So Katie is last over here. Katie, just say hi.
Hi. Do you want me to say anything else besides that?
Share a little bit about you.
Hi, I am a former Dean of Students at Success Academy Charter Schools in New York. I spent the last 6 years working with Carrie and William at a professional development consulting firm, and I now work for BES, formerly Building Excellence Schools, since November. Anna is actually was a BES fellow, and her school is a BES fellow founded school, and so I just messaged her and was like, I recognize your school name. That's amazing. So happy to be here. Learning from you all. It's actually really personally beneficial too, because I'm getting my master's in educational administration right now. And so this is all like helping me as I like write my papers and everything like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, well, great. I'm excited. Let's start digging in a little bit. We don't have a huge agenda, but I do just want to share the things that we started talking about yesterday. What we wanted to do is give you guys a space to like unpack a little. What we want to talk about is those 4 kind of big buckets that William dug into. And then he's going to lead us into a conversation. And we just want you to unmute and share. And exactly a week ago, we kind of wanted to share with you where our thinking was around all of this. And then what we want to do is hear from you about what you've done. Taking notes is amazing, but now what have you done with those notes? Because each of you are going to now be able to teach each other a little bit more, because you're the ones digging in and being real practical right now. So we talked about trust, right? And getting that trust for your teachers, with your teachers, the idea of empathy and humility. And that in order to have empathy, you also have to show humility. And I think what you said of we don't know what we're doing was exactly the right thing that you have to say to your staff. So I want to hear more about how they responded to that, about thinking creatively. This is going to be a big one for us. We want to hear what I keep saying, we all have lemons. We all have the same dang lemons. I have taught all over the world, from Asia to Europe and here, and they all have the same lemon. So what are we doing for different lemonade recipes? Because we're all going to learn. And then how are you building community? And this is where sharing some practical ideas could really be helpful for all of you. So William, I'm going to kind of hand it off to you, and you can start facilitating the discussion. I don't know if you want to kind of start with trust and move into each one, or if people just want to share, but go ahead. You're muted, which I usually like, I got to be honest. Go ahead.
I always enjoy the gestures that people make when they're muted, but they just take off talking, and then it totally, like, you have to rebuild that first 3 seconds out of the gate. You're like, ah. Last week we chatted about some descriptors or some details inside of each of those 4 concepts. And I tried to at least share with you folks that it was just a way of thinking, or it was a way of approaching the work. Everybody that comes to the call has their own challenges and their own successes around those 4 things. Nobody's perfect with those 4 concepts. Like administrators and coaches and assistant principals and directors, we constantly make missteps with those 4 concepts all the time. So I think what I left with last week was accepting that none of us are going to be perfect with those 4 things. And it's a really difficult thing to accept, because you wake up every day, at least the last 5 weeks, and you try to like put forth your best effort on these calls. And then you realize you make some mistakes or some not so great moves along the way. And then you kind of wrestle with those decisions. You wrestle with those conversations that you have with your teachers. And so something that I'm simply learning is just giving myself the permission to be okay with putting forth my best effort and striving after those 4 concepts, but accepting that nobody's perfect around those 4 concepts. There is no school, no principal, no coach that's flawless, unless you're Beyonce, right? That gets to be perfect with those 4 concepts.
But William, I think you make a good point about making mistakes and reflecting on them, but then digging right into the empathy and humility. The humility piece is admitting, guys, I didn't do that right, or I thought about it and I don't feel like that was the right answer, or whatever it is. Just sharing that.
Yeah, and I think that like something that I still like even learn to talk about differently is, it's one thing to apologize externally. It's another thing to still like hold yourself hostage and not give yourself the permission to be forgiven or to have a second chance. Because otherwise you wear that stress. And I think if you start wearing that stress, instead of it becoming an expectation for you, which is what we want it to be, that drives us, it ends up becoming some type of like emotional shackles, where you feel like you're not doing your best job, and then you second guess your work. And when anybody has to lead other adults with that type of attitude, we're destined to lead from a deficit frame versus an asset-based frame. So that was the first thing. Just I'd say let's just live on that topic for like 5 minutes. I'd love, like I saw some heads nodding. I'd love to just hear from other people around, like, are you finding your own sense of not only reflection but permission on a regular basis to feel free enough to lead and not holding yourself hostage, or are you beating yourself up over things?
I think you can only do what you can do. We're each individuals. There's 24 hours in a day, and there are things that are not under our control. Some things are just, they're going to be there tomorrow. So I have learned to step back and give myself permission to say, it's okay. And if we mess up, okay, we go back, we fix it, and we try it again. And, you know, when I'm trying to coach my teachers in the classrooms, I'm in the war right with you. I have the same students you have. Here's what I did. This worked great. Try it. If it doesn't, okay, well, we work through it together. But try something, do something. But I let them see, I get where you are because I'm right there too. And I think that's the greatest thing we can do for our teachers, even parapros too. That's key right there.
In the chat, I just dropped control what you can. That's what I took away from your contribution when you were dropping a couple gems on us. I feel like suddenly a playlist is going to evolve out of this call with the Beyonce song, a Prince song, and suddenly we have song references with I Woke Up Like This and Control, right? So
William's very big into song references, FYI, if you haven't figured that.
Love to hear from a couple more people just around, like, where's your mindset? Are you in a good space, or are you in like a struggling space around controlling what you can and giving yourself permission when you deal with your own failures and your own challenges? Kamitra, what about you? Can I cold call on you even though we don't know each other?
Well, of course you can cold call me.
Bring it on.
I think that for me, I'm in a little different role because I'm the executive director. So I'm coaching the principals, and I'm trying to coach them to be in this space. Like, it's okay. And it's hard when you're failing and you got to tell your boss, like, hey, that totally bombed. And I'm just trying to move them to a space where they feel comfortable just sharing, like building that culture of error and saying, like, yep, we're all going to fail through this together, but we're failing up and we're failing forward. So those types of things, like me, I actually implemented some of those pieces with them. Like, they didn't watch the live with me last week, so I sent them the link and had them watch it, and then us just talking about, like, hey, how can we have informal time together where you feel comfortable talking to me, and like trying to build that relationship. We'll continue to build our relationship virtually, that of things we would do if we were face to face. So yeah, that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, so I jotted down in the box this informal time to chat, and then this space of recognizing some of us on here work directly with teachers, and other people on this call are coaching people that are in the business of coaching other people. That's like a whole nother added layer of how you create organizational movement, right? But just this concept from our first contributor around control what you can to this second concept around, like, I think a real gem that you dropped was what I heard you say was, you got to make informal time to chat with people versus like just business. Maybe that's not what you said. That's what I heard you say. And last week, one of the small details that was under building community was, what's a routine or a system that you as a leader that you're establishing so that you can manage 15-minute or 20-minute check-ins with people, not so that you're talking at them, but so that they have an opportunity to talk to you so that you can listen and affirm things for them. So I feel like I hit the nail on the head with what you were contributing to the group. Let's do one more, and then we'll try to pivot the conversation from there.
I think, one of the things that stuck with me from last week was what you shared about the, relationships with maybe some teachers that you didn't have a positive relationship for, maybe they're struggling and you've been working with them, and that the opportunity that we have right now as leaders to repair some of those relationships is huge. But it's that willingness that we have to show, that vulnerability of, and that transparency that we're struggling too, And I feel that, like, you know, I had been in a site for 13 years and I had a very strong culture, positive culture relationship where I just, you know, started this year at my new site. And it was very hard for me not to have those relationships that I had, you know, had. But this, to me, this experience, and I do think it's because of the way that I choose to reflect and approach. If anything, it is like it's taking it's like giving a super force to that relationship, because it's giving us that opportunity to you know, show how much you want to support and how much you want them to be successful. You know, I really think that, you know, because this is uncharted waters, you know, you can't pull out a checklist on a teacher right now. And you know, and like, did they have this? Did they have that? You know, because I mean, it's just uncharted waters. And I feel like where we were week 1, where we are week 2 and week 3, every week is bringing another challenge. And we have to just address it and support, problem solve, listen to their ideas. And that's the thing is that this is given the opportunity for so many teachers to come to the table with solutions. And because we don't have all the answers, there's no book written on how to do this.
So this sentence that you came out of the gates with was like, there's this opportunity to either repair relationships or rebuild them or build them where they don't yet exist, right? What I did in the chat was, if you can see it, I numbered 1, 2, and 3 because I'm a firm believer in what's called triangulation, right? We tend to retain things in 3s, not gigantic lists. So the first part, like we're 20 minutes into this conversation. In my brain, how my brain's working right now, like what I'm leaving tonight's call with is this triangle image, right? It's the rock, Kamitra, you got it? And what I'm leaving with is control what you can, make time to chat with people so that you approach that with a space of empathy, that you're listening, you're not talking at them. And then have this will that you have to approach every day with, this will that there's an opportunity to repair relationships right now because teachers need us more than ever. There's an opportunity to build relationships where they don't yet exist, or sustain the good ones. However you want to look at that work. But there's this triangulation between this word of making time for teachers, control, and then relationships. Like there's some relationship between those 3 concepts that I think are important for us to process on the call. So what I want to do is I'm going to pivot, and I took a hashtag and put no checklists in the chat box. How we're going to bring the first 20 minutes to like a quick closure is everybody gets 1 hashtag right now, like what's ever on your mind. Something comical, something serious, something that would help process what we're talking about in the last 20 minutes. Take 30 seconds, get your hashtag together, and drop a hashtag with your word or your concept or your phrase. Let's see what comes out. What will back to school shopping look like? Roll up your sleeves, Jake. That's a Cleveland thing all day right there. That's that blue collar mentality in Cleveland. Cleveland boys that go to work on you. All right. So at the beginning of tonight's call, there was a review of the 4 concepts from last week, right? We talked about trust and empathy and being humble about how we approach the work. Those were the first two slides, or the power concepts. Slide 3 was about thinking creatively, and slide 4 was about building community. Those concepts are going to continue to mean different things to different people until we further unpack what your own relationship is with those concepts. But I figured that I would share like a quick 30-second story of, in my own world, how thinking creatively really overlapped right now with building trust, the first concept. So there's this project that we're doing in our school district called Fifth Day Experience. Amy knows about this, right? And we've picked these 5 teachers to help us run this initiative, this pilot program. But it only happens on Fridays, and it only happens during second semesters. And these 5 teachers are getting a pretty big stipend to lead this work, right? Guess what? We closed school 5 weeks ago. So we're not there, and we're not going to be in school the next 5 weeks. So of this this is like a 15-week stipend, right? And these teachers are making a significant chunk of money because they had a significant chunk of work to do. They only did 5 of the Fridays. And I was really wrestling the first like 2 or 3 weeks with, how do we pay those folks out when school's not in session for that work? I know somebody's going to raise a red flag around that financially. I know that's going to happen, right? On the flip side, these people have kind of counted on that money. Like they budgeted, teachers and educators, all of us, no matter who's on this call, we're still educators. So we make educator salaries, whether we're at the top, middle, or low end, we're all educators. And these people were counting on these supplementals, and they were a good $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 per teacher. So I was really wrestling with, how do I tell these people, sorry, you only got to do 25% of the work and school's shut down. And there is no solution for this. And so I didn't tell them anything for like 2 or 3 weeks. And what I'm leaning on right now and sharing the story is I dipped into my Let Me Think Creatively bag. And I figured out some processes with the state of Ohio Department of Education, some really outside the box work that we've never had the time or the energy to do in our district. And I rerouted what their effort and their time and their labor was supposed to be for Fifth Day Experience over here. And I rerouted it and gave it a new set of tasks, and was able to get on a call with these people and talk to our treasurer and talk to our HR director and say, like, I just don't have it in me to tell these people we got to take $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 away from them when they have kids and families and they've been counting on this. But I also know that we can't just give money away for work that didn't happen. Like, there's a duality to being an administrator in that story. So I'm sharing that story because by thinking creatively, it really, really, really allowed me to increase my level of trust with these 5 teachers right now. Like, this wasn't just about like, let me think creatively to like how I'm going to think about doing a staff meeting or a Zoom call. This was, I got to think creatively because there's 6 teachers that are counting on this money right now. And if I don't come up with something meaningful for them to do, their families, their kids, themselves, who knows what type of predicament they're going to be in. So for me, those 4 big pillars that we're talking about on this call, right? Like, trust is the first one, the single most important one. Empathy and being humble is second. Thinking creatively, and then building community. For me, I was able to dip into that bag of tricks of thinking creatively to protect my trust. So that's something that I hope we take away, like, from this space right now, is those 4 concepts don't exist in isolation, right? Those 4 concepts are meant to have like intricate relationships with each other. You can't just build trust separately and then come over here and build community. Like, how you build community is going to be viewed as authentic or fake. And teachers are going to buy into whether or not that's an opportunity in community spaces, to whether or not they can trust you. So I thought our next conversation might be, what are some problems of practice? Like, I just shared a problem of practice. Maybe there's a couple other narratives out there that's on this call. Like, how are you guys taking a challenge, solving it, and then it's creating a higher level of trust because you thought creatively, or you listened deeply with empathy, or you built community? Like, what are some of those narratives that we can hear some 2-minute drills around? Anna Schultz, I saw you shaking your head. So one leads me to believe that you got a story and you got a narrative ready to go.
So I'm happy to do both of those. But before I do that, do you know the book Big Magic?
Big Magic?
Anybody? Yes.
I do not.
Oh, okay. So it is by the lady that wrote Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert, right?
Okay.
Right? And it is a book all about creativity and bravery. And I bought it about 2 weeks ago and I've read it twice already. Like, you need to get it, everybody. But the opening page, I'm going to read it to you. The opening page asks a question and gives an answer. And the question on the opening page says, what is creativity? Okay. And the answer, like, just gives me the chills. The answer says, it is the relationship between a human being and the mysteries of inspiration.
Read it again.
Creativity is the relationship between a human being and the mysteries of inspiration.
Come on, one more time. Preach it,
So
Anna.
cool, right?
One more time. Preach on us. One more time.
So creativity is the relationship between us as humans and the mysteries of how to do what you inspire to do, right? So it's not synonymous with art or music or any of those other cool things. It is really synonymous with breaking down the barriers to what does it mean to be brave and to be these outside of the box thinkers and doers. So I think everybody needs to buy it.
That explains your hashtag. That
was my
explains your
hashtag, yeah.
hashtag.
And my little purchase tip is I got it next day from Target as opposed to waiting in line on Amazon. So, but my story then, William, if you allow me to share an idea, is we are a charter school. And because of that, if I don't have enrollment and I don't have scholars, I don't have a school. So I don't have the liberty of the neighborhood kids down the street. And so we were really struggling with how do we, with lack of a better term, sell families on our school if I can't get them in the door, right? And what do tours look like? And what does family engagement look like? And all of that kind of stuff. And so I pulled back to some of the things that we talked about last week and thought about this humility piece and this trust piece and realized that for us, my biggest marketing tool is the current families we have. It's not a flashy flyer or a yard sign. So how do we use the current families that we have? And we just surveyed all of them. And I had an 84% response rate just from a simple Survey Monkey of little things like, would you be willing to have your scholar do X, Y, and Z while wearing their uniform? Would you be willing to have a yard sign in your yard that says we are an ACE Prep family? Would you be willing to, and like, what else would you be willing to do? And I approached it from this place of, like, with all due respect, the traditional marketing and enrollment techniques are out the window. And I don't know how to do this if I don't have all these families to help me, right? And so admitting to your current clientele, for lack of a better term, that the leader of the school is clueless and how to grow the school is pretty scary. And coming from this place of, like, I need your help to help us make the school what it is, was bold, to be blunt with you, and like required me to step outside of my box and be like, damn it, Anna, this isn't about you. So like, you need these people, and they have been amazing. So, and that's something I never would have done before. And I don't know why, but it's just something I never would have done before. So as you guys continue to think about everything, you know, that we've talked about in terms of trust and empathy, I haven't heard very many pieces naturally go back to the families that we serve, right? And I just think that's another angle for some of you that are on the front lines with your families every day.
You certainly disrupted my own thinking while you're telling your story. That's a powerful share out, right? I wasn't expecting somebody to change my definition of creativity on this call tonight.
Right. Sorry.
And so it's and I think what's interesting about your share out is you're doing it with a high degree of passion, right? So clearly you're somebody that has, you're very strong about that reflection that you just gave.
Yeah.
And five or 6 minutes ago, when I told you guys like how my brain works is this notion of triangulation, like have this like triangle right now. And one part of that triangle is creativity.
Yeah.
This other part of this triangle is bravery. And then this third part of this triangle though is servant leadership. That's what I really
Sure.
heard you say. Like, you're not necessarily trying to be creative, and you're not trying to be brave to serve yourself or your own needs. That
No.
there's families that need us now more than ever. And in some capacities, it's funny because we think that families need us as leaders. And
Mhm.
especially if you're in a charter school network, right? Like, your
Right.
back's against the wall right now when it
Right.
comes to vouchers and enrollment. And
Yeah, yeah.
I get it, right? So this notion of how you need your families more than ever is a lens that sometimes it takes a charter school leader to bring that lens to a mixed space, which really rattled my thinking while you were sharing out. So I appreciate you shaking things up at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday night for us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Does anybody else, I'd love to hear like one more story similar to mine, similar to Anna's, in regards to the time, like how long it takes to lay out a problem of practice or a story like that.
Well, I'll go. So we are doing a variety of things. We are also did a survey, kind of a different piece though. We have I would say probably 80–90% of our district that does not have connectivity or enough devices. You know, that's the national story, right?
It's the equity gap.
Right, right. It's there. So we've reached out. What do you need? You know, what do you have? Blah blah blah. So we can help you to the best, but also what suggestions do you have for us? You know, so kind of soliciting their opinion as well too. I'm surprised we haven't received very much, and they're just like, give us what you got, give us what you got. They're just hungry for anything. But I think you hit the nail on the head. And another one of our staff members said that it's not, at the end of the day, how many units did we get through? How many standards did we cover? It's about, were we there for your kids? You know, it's about building that relationship. And, you know, the teachers are to reach out minimum once a week. Now, we're doing more than that. Let's be real, we are. But you've got to reach out. And it's not just say, do your work, do your work, do your work. It's, what do you need? How can I help you? I work with the seniors. They're texting me and emailing me. What about college? Do you have, it's about their support right now. It's not about some standards. Yes, they have to have the content, but the relationship is the key. So we're kind of hitting both those boxes. We made a spreadsheet of, here are the educational opportunities we've provided your children, at least during those first couple of weeks we were closed. Here's the links. They're using Google Classroom. Here's your students' ID, password, because we all have, this district email. So we put the format out there. That's on our Facebook page. It's on our marquee. It's sent through our school messenger. So we're sending messages by phone, led from the superintendent, of course. And it's mainly everything you can do, push it out. Most of us are on Google Classroom. In fact, that's part of the plan we're crafting, is we're all going a combination of Google and paper packets. But again, at the end of the day, it's about the context. And if I could just chime in and answer one other question, you said, how can you justify paying these people, right? I tell my students I wear 3 hats. Right? I get paid out of 2 pots, general ed, title funding. And what we've gone to is we have a weekly task recording sheets, a spreadsheet, and it's, here's the dates, here's what we did. I took, because I'm split, I just made another tab. Here's my coaching tab, here's my teacher tab. What I do, I just keep a running log. I took a picture of our meeting at the beginning of the meeting. So I've got documentation that was here at this meeting right now, and we're also doing Zoom meetings too, by the way. And I also take a picture of who's there. So there's a couple of things there.
Trevor, at the very beginning of your reflection, you were talking about like these juxtapositions. That's what I heard you talking about. And I saw this on Twitter and I remembered it, like I locked it in my brain. I felt like there's a theme of what you were saying, and what you were saying was grace over grades, compassion over content, and opportunities over outcomes. like in my brain, what just went off like these series of triggers was, you're basically saying like the way in which we're approaching our scope of problems and our challenges in our work, our mindset has to be one that is grace over grades, compassion over content, and opportunities over outcomes. So thank you for kind of just laying out there a summary of a variety of things that you're tackling in your world. When I think what's interesting about it is, over here on this shoulder, there's this notion of grace over grades and compassion over content. And then over here, I heard Anna talking about this new definition of creativity, where creativity needs to be synonymous or driven by bravery, right? And in order to do things like tell our teachers, we're going to have grace over grades right now and compassion over content and stand on those principles, it requires a real strong degree of bravery right now. So there's definitely an intricate relationship there. Appreciate it. On our last call, we have 15 minutes left. We'll try to end 5 minutes early, right? I want to achieve two things before we get done tonight, where we use the chat room thoughtfully so that people can leave with opportunities to lift practical solutions and apply them right away. We ended the last call where I was just verbally listing like 20 things that you could be doing with your particular teaching staff to build community, right? So let's kind of inventory. Let's have everybody inventory these. We'll go for 6 minutes verbally, and we'll type while it's happening. So when you're done contributing yours verbally, type it in the chat room. Then at 7:20, we'll shift to our concluding question. I'll model it and I'll go first. Tomorrow and Friday, we have some weekly celebrations of our teachers that we do. They used to be, well, Amy Claywell, the principal, would get on and she would celebrate her teacher. Her teacher would say, thank you. Took me 5 weeks to figure this out. Tomorrow, we're changing it and making it different. Tomorrow, we're just going to acknowledge the teacher, and the teacher has been given that 3-part stem, and they're going to reflect out loud. I used to think, I now think, I promise to. And then the principal publicly will affirm one thing they heard the teacher say in their reflection. That's what we're doing tomorrow, right? So the teacher drives the celebration and the reflection. Then the principal affirms. We'll probably do, what do you say we do, Amy? About 7 to 8 teachers in 30 minutes. So that's my contribution of a very practical way to use Zoom to celebrate with teachers and build the relationship of administrators and teachers and really deepen it. Would love to hear a 30-second idea from somebody else. We got 5 minutes on the board.
You just really quick repeat those 3 stems. I used to, what was the second one?
I used to think.
I'll write it in the chat too.
I now think. I promise to. It shows the old mindset, the new mindset, and then the commitment. And that's not original. I stole that from a thought partner at High Tech High. I just put it in Zoom and we just made it a teacher celebration. Like, I'm just morphing these ideas together because they feel like they should work, right? So that's one way to, but let the teacher drive it. And then the principal talks on the back end and says, Treva, here's one thing that really resonated with me about what you said. Because the goal is we want teachers to hear their own words as being powerful affirmations of the words they created, not someone else's words. What's another idea? Let's go for 4 more minutes. Let's just throw ideas of how you all might be creating community, honoring students, or honoring teachers. What are some quick ones? Jake?
I'm sorry. The line. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good now.
All right, sorry, I kept going out. This is not perfectly honoring teachers to answer your question, but we've been doing a lot of like whole school Zoom. So like all parents, all kids, all teachers, like, you know, like everybody get on Zoom.
Wow.
And we have found that to be the world's greatest replacement to PTO meetings that nobody was coming to. So I actually think that may turn into the future PTO of our school, because we're seeing parents hearing parents and seeing kids that we do not typically hear from. And, you know, this is just proven to us it's not because they don't care. It's just because, like, you know, 6:30 on a Tuesday, it does not always mean everybody can get there.
That's super dope. All schools.
Article there. That is an article that every school will want to hear about.
Yep,
Mhm.
the
You
new
gotta write that.
PTO.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else. Let's keep it moving. We got 3.5 minutes left.
With our team, we did like a 10-word update. So every person, kind of like you did your 30-second elevator speech of who you are. So it was like a 10-word, like, hey, Tara, tell me about your day. And then the person straight up is going, boop, 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 boop. And then it was a quick way. It's kind of like in the same thought process of those standing faculty meetings, like the ones in the hallway where nobody like sits down and everybody's super focused. So it was like a super focused way to like bring everybody in and have the chat. And that was nice and powerful.
Love a 10-word update. I probably should limit myself to more 10-word updates. Let's go 2 more.
So we've done some silly staff pictures and then posted them on our school Facebook page that has created a sense of community, not only amongst the teachers, but amongst the greater community. So the first one we did is every teacher held up a piece of paper and we spelled out a sentence all together to our scholars. So we had 16 people in the picture. So our sentence was 16 words, and then posted it in a collage. So you read it going across. And then week number 2, we did body spelling, which was nuts, but we spelled out a 16-letter phrase, and then each teacher made that letter with their body. So then you put it all together in a collage and it spelled it out. And then this week we're doing snapshots of teachers reading a book and posting that on Friday. They go out every Friday, and posting that on Friday for scholars and families to see.
I love this idea of teachers reading a book because it can be replaced with any relevant action. Yeah, like we work in a career tech center, so I'd love to see pictures of our teachers doing their career technical education trade in a picture. Students would probably get a kick out of that. So those are like, there's 4 or 5 quick contributions. These are all practical things that people can leave with when you're working with small groups of teachers, mid-sized groups of teachers, large groups of teachers. Let me add this though. At the end of our building community pillar, we had those 4 pillars, right? At the end of that building community pillar, we talked about it's not just about practical ideas. It's actually about getting your staff to reflect on what is your staff's collective identity. Like, how has their identity as a staff changed for the better because of the stay-at-home order and the challenges with remote learning? Like, I don't know either that I think that's happening in pockets in our school district at Butler Tech. Soon, I hope that we'll be facilitating dialogues with each of our campuses virtually that are asking the question, how are we better as a staff? And how are we going to maintain that sense of identity, right? Because a lot of people are experiencing new transformational behaviors for the better. And we don't want to lose any type of progress when we go back into schools, right? So I want to model what I'm asking you to think about with your staff, framing it from our current roles as school leaders. Everybody on here is a school leader, regardless of your title, right? So I'm curious to know, how are you a better school leader now than you were 5 weeks ago? Like, that is probably like, and if we can't answer that, and not be afraid of that question, we cannot possibly expect teachers to answer how they're a better teacher for kids if we can't model and be humble in our answers around how are we a better leader than we were 5 weeks ago. So I think it'd be cool why don't we just take 30 seconds and like formulate our answers, and everybody gets 1 sentence to exhaust. We'll just do like 15 seconds a person, and that'll bring our call to an end. So 30 seconds of think time. All right, here we go. Let's go. Dee Dee, read yours out first, and we'll just work our way around the chat room. Just read it. You don't even have to explain it. Just read it.
I've improved my listening skills, pausing and letting them talk.
Kamitra.
I have much more empathy.
I'm not sure how to pronounce the next name. Giuseppe, did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it.
I got it. That's what I'm talking about, my man.
So it's a lot more of communication with families and keeping them in the loop, and they're so appreciative of that, and then just throwing a lot of humor in my communications, and parents are loving that.
Got it. Thank you. Marianne?
I am forcing myself to shut down at a decent time. So when we end our faculty meetings at 3 o'clock, I tell them I'm turning my computer off and so are you, and forcing them to do that instead of stretching themselves out like they usually do when we're in a brick and mortar building and they stay till 5 o'clock and so do I. Nope, everybody shut it down. Let's go spend time with our families.
Love that. Jake?
I trust more. I've watched all these amazing people do all this amazing stuff, and I feel just so much more comfortable just trusting that good work will be done, because I've just seen it over and over for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks.
Treva?
It's not what I typed on there. There was another suggestion because we're dealing with webinars on mindset. But what I've been doing, we have 2 staff members supporting parents with Alzheimer's. That's a road I have walked, wish I didn't. And so, I'm part of the organizing committee and I keep reaching out to them. What do you need? How can I help you as a person?
Got it. Thank you for that vulnerable share out on a Zoom call too.
It's real.
Tara?
I'm thinking about this in more of a long term, like what if this goes a lot longer than we're thinking? And so as I'm planning and, creating PD, I'm wanting to make sure that it's a sustainable model as we move forward. And so it's not something that's just for now, but it's also for 4 months from now, 6 months from now. So something that can help us grow and we can kind of grow into it. And I think that that's going to be key.
Got it. Not sure if we covered everybody on the call. Anna, I feel like I left you out.
No, you didn't. I'm just reflecting.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure I didn't leave you out. Jake, I'm going to borrow your answer. I had typed, I have more patience, and I didn't hit the send button. I don't know why I didn't hit the send button. I have way more patience in the last 5 weeks, but I think that's actually not what's pushing my particular leadership. I think I find myself trusting people now that I didn't feel so compelled to trust 5 weeks ago. So appreciate your answer and letting me borrow your answer, Jake.
Anytime.
All right. Amy, do you want to go, or are you just in process reflection mode?
I'm a little bit of both, actually. I think that myself as a leader, I have been less intimidated by a mindset of our staff. I'm new in a building, they're veterans, they have a mindset, and mine is not the same. And in the building environment, sometimes I let that slide and I don't necessarily do mindset work when I should be doing mindset work. In this situation, I've given myself permission. Like we're in a crisis. We have to think about students. The teachers have to come on board, and I should have been thinking that every single day of my job.
I think this is going to drive, I'm sorry, but I think this is going to drive, I don't know how many of you all do POCs, but that mindset is key. If the culture is toxic, nothing you plan is going to work. And that's one of the series of webinars we've been watching and talking about how to move the staff forward. Now is the perfect opportunity. We have to change mindsets.
why has it taken an emergency for me to step up and say, you know, this is what's best? It's not that I didn't do it to a certain degree in my role, but maybe during observation or through evaluation instead of, you know, my everyday life. And William, of course, he's in my everyday life. And as soon as I walk out of a classroom, he says, why didn't you? Why didn't you? Why didn't you? And I hold back. I don't know if it's because I'm new and they're not, or I just haven't given myself permission to say, I'm right. I'm not saying I'm right, but I have the mindset that the district is desiring, that I desire, that we support. So I am right. And this is our vision. So you need to get on board. But it took a crisis for me to say, regardless of the past.
Amy, I feel like there's a permission that we've all been given ourselves. And the permission is the fact that nobody knows what they're doing. It doesn't matter if you are the top level of government or, you know, one of our students. None of us know what we're doing. And because of that, I feel like it's taken away that, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? Is it district standards? Is it not? And that has gone away completely. And at the end of the day, it's not something to be fearful of anymore, right? Because we've seen what happens when we start to like just shed the need to feel like we're pleasing somebody or doing it right or wrong. We're still making good decisions overall because our intentions are always right. So it's like, Tara, when I say push, we can push, we can do things. I remember when we were consultants and just and in different principals' offices, there were some principals with a stack of papers that they just didn't respond to because they focused on certain things that they were going to do, and they were going to kind of get slapped on the hand. But at the end of the day, that wasn't what was driving what was important in their school. And you've all been shed the need to do it all right. So take that in a way and just keep building off of that. You don't ever want to go back to that feeling of shackle that you can't do certain things because you can.
I'm a big follower of Chris Emdin, who's the thought leader in the country right now on the hashtag Hip Hop Ed. He speaks for ASCD, he speaks for SEL, he speaks for Leadership Magazine. He's one of the top 25 influencers in Time Magazine right now. He's really, really polarizing figure in education. He's not moderate, middle of the road. He's very polarizing in his thoughts. If you don't follow him, he's my educational hero, who I look at, right? And he posted this tweet today, Carrie, that said, the single greatest struggle that you'll face as an educator is accepting what you want your own identity to be versus what other people want it to be for you. And there's like this constant struggle of like trying to foot this bill or fit this image versus doing what we know is the right work.
And we know all from the point of view that we are in, it is hard to find good administrators. And yet good ones tiptoe and walk around and they're, you know, somewhat worried, but really it's hard to find good ones. So do what you say you're going to do, work, have the integrity, and you're going to be fine even if you're pushing. What does that say, Tara? Nothing can be possessed but the struggle.
I think the easiest way for us to exit out of here is I can do 2 or 3 things and get us out of here in about 30 seconds, 60 seconds is not because this was about, actually, let me rephrase that. It's exactly what it was about. I want to make sure that we said, remember, teachers will teach exactly how you model during virtual sessions. So things that I hope you're leaving with tonight is everybody was able to contribute to the chat session 2 to 3 times. There was times where I called on everybody. There was times where it was volunteer. There was times where it was cold call. There were times where people were able to share stories. There were times where I did a little bit more talking on purpose, and we kind of filtered out and used hashtags to simplify the dialogue and extrapolate what the main objectives of the dialogue were. Again, teachers are going to teach exactly how we lead virtual sessions, so it's super critical that we prepare for them and do our very best to model. This is a great size. Like, this is like a small PLC with staff. There's 15 of us, right? So this is just like a part of your staff or all of your staff, depending on where you come from. So I encourage all of you guys to continue modeling for your teachers. And if you don't typically model, you should tell them you need to do a better job of modeling. Just deal with it head on and then come out of the gates and deal with it. Carrie, I assume there's some next steps of you'll be in digital or virtual communication with this group about getting back together if they have a need down the road.
Yeah, so we'll send you guys an email tomorrow morning with this recording. We have your kind of names in a group too. So you'll have my email if you want to respond or like reach out. If we want to do this again, we're more than willing to. Like this is just a group an organization that kind of we've developed so that we can kind of give educators a chance to connect with others from not just the country, but around the world. So if there's ideas or things that you want, let us know, but we will also communicate with you where we are, trainings that come up, opportunities, things like that as well. Okay? We're all new thought partners.
Is there any feedback on the call, feedback that you would give to myself or Carrie around affirm one or two things from tonight? Or does anybody have a push that you need to make for us?
I have a question. I had put this actually on the Instagram. Are you guys planning to do another administrator group or, because I'd love to share it with some of my colleagues, but I wasn't sure if you were planning to like do another one. I didn't see any other ones scheduled.
We don't have any scheduled right now. If we do think that there's a need, so one of the things that we'll probably do is send out like a email to ask, to see if there's a need. We have gotten some requests about some instructional coaching trainings. I wonder if that still just falls under school leadership. So we're just trying to kind of assess what the need is. So I'd love for you to email us and just kind of make that request out, and then we'll work to put something together if we can.
What's your recommendation, Dee Dee?
Well, I mean, I found it very beneficial. Our district, actually, we did one this week. I think it was on Monday. It was very similar. Though I do think that it's very beneficial to hear from people across the country and not always just in your, I mean, I think you got to have both. Because I think we learn so much from each other. I did actually forward and share the link to last week's to the person that's in charge of a lot of our principal training. Okay. So, but she asked if I had seen whether you guys were going to do another one, and I didn't see one. So that's why I was asking.
Okay. We'll chat. I'll follow up with William and Katie, and then we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Dee Dee, in my heart of hearts, I'd love for Carrie to host one for an hour and split it right down the middle. All the amazing stuff we're seeing around pedagogy that's happening. And then how virtual meetings are shining a light on the ugly pedagogy that existed. Like there's a real dichotomy that's happening because of Zoom, right, or these virtual platforms that we're seeing.
Right. I do think, and if you've been an administrator, like, in a building, there's always that collaboration that naturally happens because you have other teachers in the building and you connect. But when you're a principal, like finding that space with other administrators to collaborate always isn't as easy. So creating that space for us, I think is awesome.
Okay, sure. I think that's great. Yeah.
Kamisha, any feedback before we get off?
Yeah, so I was thinking definitely more along the lines of what Dee Dee was saying, and giving space and opportunity for leaders to just think about how to lead in these uncertain times. I wasn't pushing more toward the pedagogy because some of our struggles there are like very different. We have a lot of struggles with digital divide. We're seeing a lot of very interesting models of like how we're trying to push forward. I got the struggles that Anna has of being a charter network. And so there's plenty to go around in pedagogy, and we're being bombarded with that from many providers. But just the thought partnership around like rallying your team of teachers and what is your structure of your day look like, and how are you practicing self-care, like those types of things there's not a whole lot of. And I was so pleasantly surprised that last week's conference call was definitely like along those lines, because it's what's missing in this environment.
Understood. All right.
Awesome.
I'm gonna go watch MTV's The Challenge. My wife and our kids, we watch MTV's The Challenge. It's like on season 31. I'm not really sure, but I believe I should have been on that show. Like I need to be on MTV's The Challenge.
Oh, well, you need to be on Survivor. Let me be very clear with you. And if you need me to follow up with 15 reasons why, like after this, I will. But you need to be on Survivor. I think you'd be hilarious.
I think Big Brother would be more of where you should go. Definitely not Naked and Afraid, though. Okay.
No, thank you, Tara.
No bug bites. No
in
bug
this
bites.
in this moment, you just named the next staff game, which is what TV show should you be on?
So what reality TV trash should you be on? What garbage TV?
Not what do you want to be on? What should you be on? Peace, everybody.
Thank you guys.
Hey, you guys have to take the Instagram photo for the Brady Bunch.
Oh, yeah, do it, Carrie.
I'm gonna do a screenshot. You ready?
Yeah, somebody's got to do it. So you got to like look at somebody or be like.
Oh yeah. All right. So wait, I need Treva. You got to look up or down.
I'm looking at you.
We can hit the rock like this.
Steffi, you got to look to your right. Jake, you got to look
Is
up.
that you, Dee Dee?
Jennifer, you got to look up. You're at the bottom of my screen. Yeah, there you go. Kamitra, you could look left, right, or up or down. William has to look down. Dee Dee, you could do that. Yeah, that's good, Dee Dee. Amy, you could go left, right, up or down. And Anna, you could go to your left or up or down. There you go. Okay.
Looks like he's
Karen, you can go to your right or down. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
William, stop what you're doing.
Right,
I'm trying to.
Stop it. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's see if it works. Yes. Oh, that is so good. Okay, Katie, that is going on the Instagram.
Yeah, awesome.
Peace.
Thank you guys so much. It was wonderful to connect.
Thank you guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you next time.